Imagine an empire so vast, so rich, so confident in its own power that it believed even money could be created by decree. No more hauling silver or minting coins, just ink, paper, and an imperial seal. At first, it worked beautifully. Trade flourished, taxes flowed, and the empire's reach expanded. But behind this dazzling innovation was a hidden weakness, the belief that paper could replace trust. When the foundation of an economy becomes paper promises, the collapse doesn't come suddenly. It creeps in quietly until one day, everything built upon it crumbles. This is the story of the Yuan Dynasty of China, ruled by Kublai Khan and his Mongol successors from 1271 to 1368. It's a story not just of power and conquest, but of finance, of how one of history's greatest empires pioneered paper money, used it to build prosperity, and then drowned in the very flood of currency it created. What makes this tale haunting is not that it happened once, but that it keeps happening. Every empire that tries to print its way out of debt ends up walking the same path. First progress, then dependency, and finally collapse. When the Mongols conquered northern China, they inherited a chaotic monetary system. Coins of copper and iron circulated beside silver ingots, and each province had its own rules. For a nomadic people who now ruled a vast agricultural empire, this confusion was intolerable. They wanted a simple, unified system that could work across thousands of miles. Paper money, light, transportable, and easily multiplied, seemed the perfect solution. The early Yuan paper notes, called jiao chao, were backed by silver. People could redeem them for real metal, and that convertibility gave the notes value. For a while, it worked perfectly. The government issued limited amounts, merchants trusted the notes, and the empire's reach expanded faster than ever before. It was an early triumph of financial technology, centuries before Europe would even imagine such a thing.
But success breeds temptation. As the empire grew, so did its appetite for money. The court in Beijing needed to fund armies, build palaces, pay officials, and maintain roads stretching from Korea to Persia. The more territory they ruled, the more costly ruling became. Why raise taxes and anger the people when you could simply print more paper? At first, the increase was modest. Then it became routine. Soon, it became addiction. During the first stage of Yuan finance, from 1260 to 1275, notes were fully convertible into silver. But between 1276 and 1309, the link weakened. The state still promised convertibility, but redemption became harder to obtain. By 1310, the silver standard was gone. The currency became pure fiat, money backed only by the emperor's word. The shift seemed harmless at first. After all, the empire was strong, the treasury well organized, and people still believed in imperial authority. But once money loses its backing, the seeds of distrust are planted. With no silver constraint, printing exploded. Each time the government faced shortfalls, war, rebellion, famine, it printed more. Each time officials needed to pay soldiers or repair floods, they issued another round of notes. Inflation crept in quietly. Prices rose, but slowly enough that few noticed. Yet the underlying equation had changed forever. The supply of money was now limited only by political will. In the 1330s, signs of strain were clear. Merchants began to hoard silver, preferring tangible wealth over fragile paper. Market prices doubled within years. In some provinces, the paper currency traded at a discount. The government responded not by tightening issuance, but by printing even more. They believed quantity could compensate for lost confidence. It never does.
By the 1340s, the system was spiraling. The government issued a new type of paper note called Zhizheng Chao in a desperate attempt to restore order. But within 2 years, circulation jumped from 20 million to 50 million units. the currency's purchasing power collapsed. Annual inflation reached nearly 13%, meaning prices doubled within a decade. People's savings vanished and trade began to break down. Military spending pushed the system over the edge. Rebellions flared across the empire, forcing the yuan to pour money into armies that no longer trusted their pay. Soldiers demanded more notes to cover rising prices, which required yet more printing. It was a feedback loop. Inflation caused deficits, deficits caused printing, printing caused inflation. As the notes lost value, people stopped accepting them. Merchants demanded silver or goods instead. Markets reverted to barter. In rural areas, paper money became little more than scrap. Officials tried to enforce its use, but even local governments refused to take it at face value. The empire's monetary system, once a symbol of innovation, was now a source of chaos. The collapse of the yuan currency brought down much more than the economy. Inflation doesn't just destroy money, it destroys trust between rulers and people, buyers and sellers, employer and worker. The very fabric of exchange that holds a civilization together began to unravel. When prices move faster than wages, when savings evaporate overnight, society begins to rot from the inside out.
In the final years of the dynasty, confidence disappeared entirely. Ordinary citizens used bolts of cloth or silver ingots for trade. Provincial governments collected taxes in kind instead of currency. The once great experiment in paper money had become a cautionary tale. When the Ming forces overthrew the yuan in 1368, they inherited not a functioning economy, but a landscape of barter and despair. Yet, the yuan rulers didn't go down without trying to fix things. They issued new note designs, declared old ones void, and attempted to restrict the use of silver to force people back into paper. But none of it worked. You can't legislate confidence. Once people stop believing in the value of money, no decree can make them believe again. The deeper problem wasn't the notes, it was the empire's finances. The yuan state spent more than it earned, year after year. Wars, corruption, and the luxury of court life drained the treasury. Printing was the easiest escape. But money printing doesn't erase debt, it transfers the cost to the population through inflation. It is taxation by stealth. The Mongols had mastered conquest, but not fiscal discipline. By the time the last Yuan emperor fled north, the paper money was worthless. People no longer trusted the government, the merchants, or the markets. The dynasty had printed itself into political and social collapse. And history, as it turns out, took notes, because centuries later, the same mistake would repeat again and again. The Roman Empire debased its coins, reducing silver content until the currency became nearly worthless. The Weimar Republic printed so many marks that people needed wheelbarrows to buy bread. In 1813, Denmark-Norway went bankrupt after issuing excessive paper money during war. The formula is always the same. Fiscal stress leads to monetary expansion. Expansion erodes trust. Trust collapses into crisis.
Modern times haven't broken the pattern. They've only disguised it. Instead of printing presses, we have central banks. Instead of paper, we have digital ledgers. But the principle is identical. When governments create money faster than real output grows, the result is the same erosion of value. Quantitative easing, liquidity support, stimulus, different words for the same ancient temptation. The numbers today may seem modest, but the scale is unprecedented. Since 2008, the world's major central banks have expanded their balance sheets by trillions. After the 2020 pandemic, more money was created globally in a single year than in the entire first decade of the 2000s. Inflation may appear tame at first, but trust is a fragile thing. Once shaken, it rarely returns unchanged. The yuan story is not a relic, it's a warning. It shows that monetary innovation without discipline leads inevitably to decay. Paper money was a brilliant invention, but when the link to real value was cut, it became poison. Fiscal excess and money creation always march together, and the march usually ends in ruin. Every empire believes it can control the process. None have succeeded forever. The lessons are simple yet ignored. First, money derives its power from restraint. Second, printing to cover deficits is merely borrowing from the future. Third, once the public loses faith in the currency, collapse can happen faster than anyone expects. These are not academic theories. They are the bones of fallen empires from Rome to Yuan to Weimar. So remember this, civilizations don't crumble only through invasion or disaster. Sometimes they decay quietly through the slow debasement of their own money and the erosion of public trust. The empire that thought it could print wealth printed its way to collapse. And the question we must ask ourselves centuries later is unsettling. Are we doing the same?